Sure.
Today is actually a good time to just take a review of what we've learned so far in the Gita. Because of chapter 8 we finished now, 8 chapters ho gaye hain. And actually between these 8 chapters, all the main points of Gita have been said. Iske baad jo hai, it's more detail, more explanation, little bit more sort of, it goes more into things like ethics, how to behave and all, wo thoda sa aur zyada detail mein jata hai. And it also talks, and it covers the same ground again from a different angle in chapter 13, 14 particularly. But the main points of the philosophy of what we are trying to understand of the teaching are covered. So what I want to do is, take the next 2, 3, 4 sessions, however much it takes, quickly go through chapter by chapter and see what did we learn in each chapter and refresh ourselves. Okay, we are, because sometimes we forget जो शुरू में हमने पढ़ा था. So let's get our knowledge together, and then we'll continue with the rest of the Gita. Okay? And the other thing I wanted to do was to kind of try to make this more interactive, so that now you guys are knowledgeable enough, so you can start. We can start discussing. नहीं मुक्ता हिला रही है सिर. I almost thought मैं तुमको ना text करके warn कर दूंगा, because I know you don't always like to talk too much in these sessions, but फिर मैंने कहा ठीक है कोई नहीं, we'll see how it goes. So let's start with chapter 1. So chapter 1 आपको याद है? It is the chapter in which war has been declared in Mahabharata, and the two armies are facing each other. And it starts with, basically what happens is, jo Sanjay hai, he's got these very special divya sight, where he can, from a distance, he can see exactly what is happening in the war, in the battlefield. And he has been given this sight by God, and with the specific purpose that he can record the events of the war and also relate them to Dhritarashtra, who is who's blind, as you know. So he can't see what is going on in the war. So Gita starts with Dhritarashtra asking Sanjay this question. आपको पता होगा, Kurukshetra, Dharmashetra, all these, that the first line, ke, in this Kurukshetra, all the armies are gathered. Tell me, Sanjay, what is happening on all these people who are very keen to fight, my sons as well as them. He refers to the Pandavas as them. He could have said they're also his clan, but no, them. They are so eager to fight. Tell me what's going on. So that's how Gita starts. And then, Sanjay describes that, both sides, the armies are gathered. I can see Duryodhan. He has gone to his, two major, big, the Maharathis, which is Bhisham Pitama and Dronacharya. And he has gone to them and he's showing them the army on the other side, introducing the people on Kaurav side as well as Pandav side, and trying to, motivate them that, look at your, ये आपके ही बच्चे हैं जो हमसे लड़ने आए हैं. द्रोणाचार्य को कहता है आपने इनको सिखाया था, ये जो अर्जुन वगैरह हैं ये लड़ने आए हैं. So, he's trying to say, motivate them to fight. And then there's a lot of shank blowing, conches are blown, war cries are sounded and all of that. And in all this, then the scene shifts to Arjun and Krishna, where Krishna is the charioteer in the Rath and Arjun is sitting. And Arjun is also telling Krishna, look at all these guys, And then he says, Krishna, take me to the middle of the field, in between the two armies, right in the middle, because I want to see more clearly, who am I going to be fighting? So then Krishna takes the chariot in between the two armies and stations it there. And then Arjun sees the other side. and he sees Dronacharya, he sees Bhisham Pitama, and he suddenly says, "Oh my God, are these the guys I'm supposed to kill? My own flesh and blood, my people in whose lap I have grown up, my Guruji who's taught me everything I know. Am I going to kill these guys? For what?" And he has this, complete meltdown. It's nothing less than a meltdown. It's like a panic attack. And he tells Krishna, "I can't fight." There's a long explanation. He gives a lot of reasons. He tries to rationalize. He says, how can it be virtuous if I have to kill people who are so, my precious elders who are dear to me, to whom I'm dear? How can it be a virtue to kill them? Because you're telling me this is a virtuous war. How can it be a virtue? He said, if I kill all of this army and my side also dies, which is actually exactly what happened. Everybody died except the Pandavas and a couple other people. Everybody died. So if all of them die, all the men die, men folk die, who's going to take care of the women folk? And if there's no economic security in households, then the women go astray. And when the women go astray, the society goes astray. So his logic is very clear. He's saying the solution that you're offering me is worse than the problem. That's what he's trying to tell. So he said, for those reasons, I don't think it is right to fight. I'm not going to fight. And he puts uska jo gandeev thi na, usne niche rakhi, and he sat down on his chariot. He said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not fighting. So then Krishna Bhagwan tried to tell him in many different ways, why he should fight. First, he tried to inspire him and motivate him by saying, you have this great opportunity. People who fight a holy war, they go to Swarg. So for you, Swarg ka darwaza khula hai. If you win this war, then you are going to go back and be a good ruler. Great that you'll be victorious. That's a good outcome. If you lose this war, that is basically you're dying. You're not going to lose the war and be alive. So if you lose the war and you're dead, then you're going to Swarg, where Devi Devtas are waiting for you, to take good care of you, to reward you, to applaud you. What are you? It's a good outcome too. मरना तो सबने है, क्या पता मर के कौन कहाँ जाता है, but this is guaranteed Swarg. So what is your problem? Fight. So that also didn't work. So finally then, because nothing else worked, then Arjun told Krishna Bhagwan, he sat down and he said, you know what, Krishna Bhagwan, I am completely lost. I don't know what to do. I feel like सब कुछ त्याग के मैं जंगल में जा रहा हूँ. I just want to give up everything. I'm not interested in society. He was basically completely depressed by this point. He said, I just want to go live as a mendicant, as a sadhu. जो भी मुझे कोई भिक्षा देगा मैं वो खा लूंगा, वो मेरे लिए बहुत है, मुझे ये सब कुछ नहीं चाहिए, मैं जा रहा हूँ. And then he said, Krishna Bhagwan ji, Krishna, I am your shishya, teach me, tell me what to do. That is the start, that's the background of the Gita. So these are the main points of what happened before then Krishna Bhagwan started teaching. The point is that the moment Krishna Bhagwan heard, I am your shishya, teach me, that is the moment that Krishna Bhagwan's whole thing changed and he started actually teaching. He stopped being a friend at that moment and he started being a guru. But Gita makes it a point to say and emphasize the fact that all this was that Krishna Bhagwan waited till he was asked specifically, teach me. You're my guru, teach me. And the thing is, Krishna and Arjun knew each other for many, many years. They grew up together and, they were cousins. But never before had Krishna become Arjun's guru. He was always his friend and confidant and everything, and they were plotting and planning everything. But only when Arjun said, teach me, did Krishna then teach the Gita. And then in the middle of the armies, the two armies, where battle raging and not battle raging, but battle being prepped, 700 verses of Gita were relayed. Like you can't think of a worse possible time, but in some sense they are trying to say it really doesn't matter. There is no good time, there is no good place, there is no perfect opportunity. Whenever the person is ready, whenever the person asks for knowledge, this knowledge is given. Okay, so this is sort of chapter 1. Actually, I've also gone a little bit into chapter 2, the first 10 verses of chapter 2, right? Now, there's a lot more in chapter 1 around the back and forth of arguments between Krishna and Arjun in terms of why one should fight and why one should not fight. So Arjun gave like 3 or 4 different arguments, all seeming very sensible. Like if I look at myself also, maybe 20 years ago, I would have completely sided with Arjun. I would have also said, how can killing be good? So these are very convincing arguments. It's not from a logical perspective. Logic is a very strange thing. Logic doesn't give any answers. Logic just takes the original position and gives you a chain. Through a chain of events you can come to a conclusion, but that conclusion can be only as good as your original assumption. So logic is garbage in, garbage out. You put in garbage, logic might identify that it's garbage, but it will also come out with an outcome which will be garbage. So logic can be very deceptive, and the logic that Arjun used can be very deceiving. So in fact, the first line of the Gita, which I told you last time also, Bhagwan Krishna told Arjun, he said, "You speak like a wise man," as if you're a very wise man. You're saying wise words, but you're full of sorrow. How can you be wise? How can you be saying all these words, wise words, and be so depressed? Something is wrong, like that's what he was trying to tell him. And he was saying wise people are not full of sorrow. When your sorrow comes when you're maladjusted with something or the other, when you're not in touch with reality. So anyway, but that goes into chapter 2. I wanted to kind of focus on chapter 1 for now. We'll go into chapter 2 also later on during today. I was thinking we'll cover 1 and 2. So now I have a question for you guys. And each of you has to answer in whichever way, okay? And the question is, because this goes to the heart of chapter 1. Chapter 1 is about preparedness. Chapter 1, the whole purpose of chapter 1 is to lay the context and tell you that there are some conditions for knowledge to be imparted. And that Arjun fulfilled those conditions. So my question to you is, let's say, what is required? What is the eligibility? What are the prerequisites for us to learn Vedanta? Or put it another way, if 2 different people hear the same teaching, go to the same guru, go to the same thing, everything else is the same, one of them may get a lot out of it, and another would say this is crazy, or may not get much out of it. Where is the difference? Why is it that now you guys are spending so much time and effort listening to me, giving you Vedanta, whereas 30 years ago, I don't think you would have called this a good use of your time. So I'm coming at it from different angles, but tell me your idea of, what do we have to be? What are the prerequisites for Vedanta? So whoever wants to go first can go first. And you don't have to be right or wrong. Don't worry. This is just a discussion. I can wait. I'm under no pressure to talk. I don't mind the silence.
From my point of view, I think it's the same. That's true for most educative topics. So not just Vedanta. It's person's readiness.
Right.
When is one ready? If one is ready, they'll get it. If they're not ready, they won't get it.
And talk more about what makes you ready for Vedanta. What is Vedant's
I
readiness?
think that's a nebulous thing
Hmm.
in the sense that whether that call it hunger, call it thirst, call it emptiness, call it curiosity, but that has to be there for anything to stick.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point is, or the question is, what about a person makes, what brings about this curiosity or hunger, you might want to call it, or desire for knowledge, mumukshutvam it's called, the desire for knowledge. Where does it come? Like, what's the difference between a qualified person and a non-qualified person for Vedanta?
I think the basic difference between these two individuals is one is working at the sensory level, and the second person, he has, I think, after being saturated with the sensory things, he's looking for something else. He's not satisfied with the world as it is. He says, he thinks there has to be something else to make him more happy, peaceful. Why is he disturbed? He has done this, he has done that, and still that vacuum haunts him. Then he gets this question and he stumbles upon Vedanta, and he sees a ray of light which can dispel his questions, answer his questions, and he thinks, yes, now the jigsaw puzzle is fitting somehow, and he tries to get the answers to all the queries he has, and whatever queries and whatever questions, like, you have been clarifying our doubts. So once you go on that path, you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. So that trigger mechanism has to be there. You have to, from all those sensory what can I say? After going through all those experiences with the world, and after that you try to find out something else which can make you more peaceful and happy, and then you take this path. Together, yes, now he's ready to listen to everything and understand that.
Yeah, that's good. Mukta, you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, I think it has to be something like that sudden, first of all, just a curiosity. I think it starts with curiosity and desire to know, uh, just a logically, being of the scientific background, we all think things logically also. But it goes by faith also. I understand that it's not necessarily scientific background that the devotion या faith नहीं हो सकता. बट मैं अपने पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से मैं बोल रही हूँ कि लाइक that curiosity drove me towards this, just the curiosity to know what is Vedanta. I have heard of the word Vedanta, but मैंने कभी उसको सोचा नहीं कि देखूं पढ़ूं क्या चीज है ये. I don't know from where suddenly this desire came over, and then started looking into it. And once I started looking into it, and then of course your talks and even Google search, started with Google search and then joined the talks, and then I started feeling connected with it, and that wanting to know more and more, that desire to know more, and like enjoying it, and feeling of that, क्या बोलेंगे इसको, मतलब अच्छा लगता है, feel good feeling after listening to all this, and feel connected with this, somehow starting to have faith in it. And I think that faith thing is also important कि आपने सुना, अगर faith नहीं होगा या you don't feel connected with it, you will listen to it once, twice, thrice, but there comes a time you start moving away also. It has happened with me at different levels with different theologies or whatever you may call them.
Yeah.
So I think that desire and that connective feeling of connectiveness with this particular line of thought,
Teaching, yeah.
teaching, or that keeps you going. Otherwise, I mean, मैंने तो कई बार शुरू करके कई बार फिर वो बैकग्राउंड में चला जाता है, ऐसा मेरे साथ हो चुका है. This is the one thing which I feel connected. I like to know more and more and more. So, and I would say probably it's the God's grace also somewhere.
Yes. No denying.
One another major thing what I have observed in Vedanta, whatever you teach or whatever points we have learned, you can test it on yourself. You can do a lot of self experiments to see whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
And then you can come to the results, and then you get more impressed, more convinced, you have more faith, and then you get more connected.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
and
100%, yeah.
that positivity, that positive aspects, and whatever you say, then what testing and that doubts are not there anymore.
Yeah. It's a combination of faith and experience, the two things, which keeps you going.
Keeps you going, yeah.
Atul, any other thoughts on readiness?
I think, I mean, sort of a crude way to add to the conversation would be that I think it's the fear that drives some of this. So,
Even
fear
like fear of death.
Fear of death, fear of what's next.
I would also add that plus the stage of life we are in. वही 20-30 साल पहले टाइम ही नहीं था सोचने का कुछ. You were so much engrossed in the worldly affairs and the family. Like, I know about myself being household, the घर के भी काम देखने हैं, घर का भी देखना है, family का भी देखना है, job भी करना है, सब कुछ करना है. So there was hardly any time to even give it a thought. Now that I am free of most of my responsibilities, the major
पर मुक्ता ये भी
responsibilities.
बात है ना कि उस टाइम हमने टाइम किस चीज पे डिवोट किया. ये तो नहीं कि हमने सिर्फ घर का ही काम किया या प्रोफेशनल काम ही किया, हमने और भी तो
ये भी
काम
बात
किए
है.
ना, पर
ये भी
इसके
बात है,
ऊपर हमने
entertainment भी
ध्यान नहीं
किया.
दिया है.
हाँ, बिल्कुल
और भी तो
बिल्कुल.
It's a
किया
matter
वो
ना.
of
ड्राइव
priority.
नहीं आई, वो नहीं, हाँ,
हाँ
प्रायोरिटी या ड्राइव ही नहीं आई, वो थॉट भी नहीं आया कभी.
हाँ
फिर मैं वही कहूंगी, द व्हेन इट इज द राइट टाइम.
Yeah.
हाँ,
It's
when it's
that
the right
God.
time,
That's why
yeah.
I
I
said the
think that
God's
is
grace.
clear when it is the right time. And the question is, what gets you to the right, what makes you prepared? How does the right time happen for you? And I think what you're saying is very true. I mean, all the things that you mentioned are totally true, which all three of you have said. It's all been said in the Vedas too. So let me tell you, if I was to kind of take all the points and string them together in technical language, which is what is there in the Vedanta, which is exactly what you said. So 3 things I will tell you, okay? One, there is a very famous shlok, which I have said often to you guys, which you may not remember. It's in the Mundaka Upanishad, chapter 2. And it's famous and I love it because it just says in words some of the things that you guys mentioned just now, in few words. And every time you can go back to the shlok, you remember the shlok, you can go back to it, and it kind of reaffirms that. And the shlok says, Parikshay lokan karm chittan brahmana nirvedanayat. So parikshaya means having examined. That's what pariksha means. Lokan karam chittan. Parikshaya lokan karam chittan. Lokan karam chittan means this world of experience. What Sanjay you call the sensory world.
Yeah.
Karam chittan, that means the world which is created. The experiences that we have, we create. So what we do is, to kind of paraphrase what you guys were saying, we are not only experiencing, we also believe that we are creating our own experiences. In other words, we are creating our life for ourselves. So what were you doing when you were young? You were creating your career. I was trying to study and, learn about management. Atul was doing his marketing. You guys were, teaching, doctorate, whatever you guys were doing. You were trying to build a career. You were investing your time in doing things which you felt will create a better experience for you down the line. So it's a world where not only are you the experiencer of things that are happening to you, you're also a creator, or you see yourself as the creator. You want to create a life for yourself. So it's parikshay lokan karm chittan. So having examined both the experiences, the joy and the happiness that comes to you, and karam chittan, those that you experienced, that you created, having you've tried very hard to bring security to yourself by giving money, by becoming a good father, by raising a family, by doing all kinds of things. You've done all the things that you feel are important for you to do a good life. You've done all of that. Yet, it's not enough. Till you do all of them, till you've actually tried your best to do all the things you think you can do to make your life better, and till you've suffered its phal, its consequence, both good and bad, and till you had many cycles of this, you're just going to be doing this. But having done this and examined the, lokan karam chittan, brahmana nirvedan ayat. Brahmana means a wise person. A wise person reaches dispassion. And dispassion is a very strange term. It has to be really understood and unfolded, because you can say dispassion just means, oh, I don't want this world, ye to bekar hai duniya, main tyag karke ja raha hu. No, that is not what dispassion means. Vairag jo hota hai, nirvedan or vairag, the language ke andar badi problem hoti hai. When you translate Sanskrit into English, you lose the actual thing till someone has to really explain it. Nirvedan means understanding the world for what it is. Understanding, not that you're saying, I give up on Karam Chittan and I give up on Lokan. No. It means you begin to realize the limits of what these things can do for your happiness. They can do something. That's why you're doing, you have preferences. But you stop expecting them to be the central cause of your happiness. You realize that something more, something different is leading to happiness, not these things. That's Nirvedan. So actually Vairagya means, Nirvedan means understanding the true worth of something, not superimposing some worth on something which is not there. Like, so Nirvedan, when you have children, like I keep doing this is part of experiences of life. Sanjay ji to kehta hai na, you see Vedant in your life. I have children. It's very easy sometimes to get emotional and think ke tumhare bacche sab kuch hain. You start counting on your children for your happiness. वो बड़े हो जाएं, वो अच्छा करें, मैं खुश रहूंगा. And then you suddenly forget that no, they are their own children. They are their own people, right? Nirvedan means taking an objective view of the whole thing. Not कि मेरे बच्चे हैं, मेरे को उनसे कुछ नहीं करना, मैंने छोड़ दिया, मैं छोड़ के जा रहा हूं. No. But also not कि मेरे बच्चे ही सब कुछ हैं. Like without the children, I'm like, my whole life revolves around my children. Both are extremes. In both cases, you superimposed certain ideas in your mind to what is actually real. The reality is that they are a source of joy and happiness, but they are their own people. Just like you are your own person compared to your parents. Look back at your own relationship with your parents and how you've grown. Do the same thing with your children. So a person who's dispassionate will look at the reality as it is, without bringing his or her own ideas and preconceived notions superimposed on the picture. And that will distort judgment. That's what Vairagya means in reality. And this is very difficult to understand till somebody explains it, because, chote mote likhte hain wo translation mein, somebody will write dispassion. You will start thinking dispassion means I have no passion. Give up the world. Tyag kar do. Which is, Gita goes to great lengths to tell you that is exactly the wrong thing to do. दुनिया को त्याग करना. Because अगर तुम दुनिया को त्याग करोगे तो तुमको परीक्षे लोकान कर्म चित्तान कैसे करोगे? कहाँ से आएंगे वो experiences जिनको तुमको एग्जामिन करना है readiness के लिए? So this one line explains readiness in 6 words. Literally. So this is one thing I wanted to tell you. Like मैं तो कहता हूँ रट लो ये लाइन को, ठीक है? मंडूके में पढ़ लो और याद करो इसको. Because it's not के your own experiences will actually, you'll find tally with this thing. You'll see the connection build stronger and stronger. So that is one thing I wanted to tell you about this readiness piece. At the end of the day, readiness only comes through experiencing of life. And in fact, one more thing on this, जो हमारा वेद है ना, it's structured accordingly. जो वेद में, if you see, पहले कर्म कांड, फिर उपासना कांड, फिर ज्ञान कांड. ज्ञान कांड is Upanishad. Karam Kand is all about doing the karmas as a householder. You can't be a Karam Yogi, you can't do Karam Kand, a householder, that grihast without a wife. वो जो कर्मा है उसमें वाइफ की जगह होती है. So if you're a यजमान जिसने यज्ञ करने हैं, वो वाइफ को साथ में बैठना पड़ेगा तुम्हारे. She has to say things. If the wife is not there, that yaj can't be done. Literally, I mean, it's just as simple as that. And half of your pun goes to the wife also, just so you know. So the wife, the idea of the household is inbuilt, structured. It is like cemented into our Ved. You can't get away from it. So being a householder is an important step. In fact, actually, the majority of your life you spend there for readiness. So that's where Karam Kand is all about. You have to be a householder. Then after that, you go to progress to Upasana Kand, which is when you're in a transitional stage where you are, you're beginning to realize that this karam is not enough. You do what's called Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is also not, doesn't mean that you actually chhod ke one mein chale gaye, forest mein chale gaye. Vanaprastha, that stage, grihast ke baad jo aati hai, it means you give up on the responsibilities. Essentially, what happens is, if you're like a family, जैसे सुनील की business family है, मेरी है, तेरी, सबकी है. We want our children to take over, and at some stage we just kind of say, okay, now you guys take over. You become the elders in the family. The major economic decisions of the family are being made by one generation lower than you. They are taking on the headaches which you had so far taken on. You are there for advice. When the kids need some very specific advice on something very specific, they will come to you. You will give them advice. You spend your time in study. You spend your time in understanding the Shastra. This is the old time thinking. In current stage, what you're doing is Vanaprastha right now. In a way, Mukta जो आप कह रहे थे, वो ठीक ही कह रहे थे कि आपके पास टाइम ही नहीं था. आप इतना कर्म योग में फंसे हुए थे, कर्म योग defined in today's context. You didn't have time. Now you've given up. You don't think anymore about, how can I sustain the family? Your kids are doing it, right? They are thinking about, how to sustain their family and how to grow a career and how to have a security, how to build the house. आपने तो कर लिया, आप तो चुपचाप बैठे हो. If Dhwani has some major issue about bringing up her children, उसको लगता है मेरे को समझ नहीं आ रही, वो आपसे फोन करके पूछ लेगी, right? And if she has something about her job or कुछ बड़ी complicated चीज है, she might ask Anil or you or whoever, right? So that's your role now, which is provide guidance when asked. Okay, only when asked.
Otherwise you are told कि ये ज्ञान नहीं चाहिए हमें,
नहीं चाहिए,
तो
exactly.
आपको सिर्फ बताया था ज्ञान मत दो.
हाँ, but remember, if you keep quiet, वो आएंगे जरूर आपसे पूछने, because they are stuck. Yeah, I get the same from my kids, you know. गुस्से होते रहते हैं, सब कुछ करते रहते हैं, then ultimately फोन आ जाएगा, अच्छा dad, you know, I was having this thing, what do you think? मैं ये कल ये करना चाहता हूँ, what do you think? Then I have to tell them. No point telling them, अभी तो मुझे कह रहे थे कि बस बता, अब क्यों आया है? You know, there's no point. It's okay. So that's Vanaprastha in a way. But now you have time to think about all this stuff that, you know, that to have these conversations, to study. And you're getting into preparatory. And the final stage is sannyas. Again, sannyas doesn't mean that you leave the house and go away and you tag kar do. Sannyas has been defined very nicely in Gita as Gyan Karan Sannyas. That means know and begin to understand that even as a doer, you're not really a doer. So वो chapter 4 है, वो अभी नहीं करेंगे, कल परसों करेंगे, next meeting में करेंगे, okay? But I was just trying to tell you, this is how the Ved is structured. So everything, it's not that Karam Kand is saying something different, Gyan Kand is saying something different. They are saying different things, but they are positioned in a sequence. Okay, so that was one thing. And the other thing I wanted to tell you about readiness is that there is actually a description about readiness, technical description about readiness in Vedanta. It's called Shat Sampatti, Chatushtya. Oh shit, I don't know. It's blank ho gaya. The name blank ho gaya. But it's 4 things: Vivek, Vairagya, Shad Sampatti. That means 6 Sampatti. Those are 6 things that your mind needs to have. And Mumukshutvam. That means a desire. So you need to have Vivek. Vivek means a discrimination which comes through experience to try to understand what is real and what is not. Which is actually, it's the same. Vivek and Vairagya are the same thing. They're just looking at it from a different angle. So Vivek is discrimination between beginning to understand the unreality of life, unrealness of what you see ahead of you, what you see in front of you, the temporariness of what you see in front of you. Intellectually, that is Vivek. Vairagya is more behavioral. It's like there also you understand, but you try to see the world objectively. That means you're seeing it from a little bit of a distance. So these are 2 major qualities, Vivek and Vairagya. And then Shad Sampatti is 6 things that your mind needs to have: Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Shraddha, couple others. Basically, what it's saying is that you need to have a certain degree of control over your senses and control over your mind. You shouldn't be running away with the first little attraction that you find, you go after it and forget everything else. You should have a degree of focus. And this just happens also. When we are younger, we get carried away by a lot of things. When we get older, as we get older, we begin to have a little bit more control over our mind, over our senses, over our emotions. We don't just impulsively act. Then another part of the Shat Sampatti is Shraddha, which is the faith that Mukta was talking about, which is basically giving things a chance. Rather than just saying something is just silly, Vedanta is silly, or something else is silly, doesn't make sense. A lot of things in this life seem silly. You give them a chance. See what are they really saying. Maybe it's very different from what you understood, but maybe there is something there. This also we learn actually through life. Because many things that as a youngster I used to think are completely ridiculous, I've begun to realize, nahi, aisa nahi hai, wo mera nazariya tha. Actually, it's not so. And Vedant mein Shraddha is extremely important, because Vedant is going to say things to you which are going to hit you like they're completely 180-degree opposite from what you thought. And you say, this makes no sense. That's where you need Shraddha. Shraddha means giving things a chance. Shraddha does not mean blind faith. Shraddha means, as was put to me, faith pending understanding. That means till you understand, give some faith. Give things a rope. For a chance do samajhne ka. Try to assume that what they are saying is right. What Vedanta is saying is right. Then see, does it make sense? Don't assume that what Vedanta is saying is wrong. And then, everything that Vedanta says, you'll find a counterpoint. No, that is the wrong way to approach Vedanta. Assume that what Vedanta is saying is right. What might it mean? It's not saying that you completely change your mind, but your approach to Vedanta should be assume that it's right. What is it? Innocent unless proven guilty. That's Shraddha. Actually, that is Shraddha. The fact that you say in your law that people are innocent unless proven guilty, that is Shraddha. If they are proven guilty, yes, sure, punish them. If you find that Vedanta is proven ineffective, sure, forget about it. But until that time, give it Shraddha. And mumukshutva means your desire to learn. So what I told you first, Karamchitan wala, Lokan Karamchitan, that's the process of readiness. What I told you later, those 4 points, that's the indication of readiness. That's what you will know that you're ready. That's a gauge for readiness. If you have Vivek, if you have Vairagya, if you have the Shat Sampatti, the control of the mind and Shraddha, if you have Mumukshutva, you are ready. How you get there is through that shlok, Karamchitan. And you'll see these 4 things, they are not, it's not a switch, abhi hai aur kal nahi hai. They're all relative. And when we are learning, we have to do both the things at the same time. एक तो we have to understand the teaching, जो बता रहे हो तुमको. दूसरा, साथ you have to increase these 4 things. I have to get this. I mean, I cannot believe that I can't remember. This is a senior moment. I can't remember the term for Chatush. I've gone through this before with you. Atul even Googled it at that time. While we were talking. Anyway, so ek to tumko, you have to understand the teaching. Second, you have to grow these 4 things. That means you have to keep growing your readiness. These are 2 simultaneous things that have to happen. You can't ignore one or the other. The process of growing this readiness through the 4 conditions in Gita is called Karam Yoga. Gita में कहते हैं ना 2 चीजें हैं, ज्ञान, कर्म योग. The 2 wings of the Gita. याद है आपको बताया था हमने पहले भी. The bird, Gita is like a bird with 2 wings. एक तो ज्ञान है, which we will cover starting chapter 2 onwards. एक ये है, which is getting your mind ready for knowledge. उसको कहते हैं, the process for getting there is called Karam Yoga. That's the other thing. So whenever we are, अगर आप गुरु जी के पास जाओगे, किसी के पास, वो कहेंगे आप मेडिटेशन करो, आप जपो, ये करो, वो करो. He may have, or he or she may have diagnosed or inferred that, we need some help in getting our mind more focused. We are too distracted, we are too here and there. So meditation is a technique that they give you. It's not going to give you knowledge. It's just going to get your mind ready. It's going to increase this Chatushtaya, I'm forgetting, Chatushtaya Sampatti, whatever it is. So it's going to increase your readiness. That's what meditation does. That's what Karam Yoga does. So Gita is beautiful because it spends so much time on this. Most of the Upanishads, They spend time on the Gyan part. They'll tell you the Gyan. They assume that you have come to the Upanishads after having gone through Karam Yoga, Upasana, all that, because the traditional approach is first, the Upanishad padhate hi nahi hai, matlab properly. They want you to go through all that other yogas. तब लास्ट में जाके उपनिषद पढ़ाते. So Upanishads assume कि तुम तो ready हो गए हो because you've gone through all those disciplines. Gita doesn't make any such assumption. Gita कहती है हाँ तुम you may or may not be ready differently. We assume you're not ready. Krishna Bhagavan assumed Arjuna is not ready and he was not ready. He was ready enough. He had some relative degree of these 4 things that he wanted to know, so he started giving him the teaching. But in the teaching, he also told him how to do Karam Yoga. That means how to increase your readiness for knowledge. That is the beauty of Gita. That it spends so much effort and time and attention on Karam Yoga, on your readiness. It says, okay, you are a poor human being. You need to be guided. I'll guide you. Is that so much clearer?
Yeah.
So, so I don't think हम chapter 2 करेंगे. मैंने सोचा था 2 chapter करेंगे एक क्लास में. I don't think so होंगे. Chapter 2 next time करेंगे. वो भी बहुत बड़ा chapter है, true ऐसे भी. So now, if I was to ask you, Arjun 20 years before Mahabharata, Arjun at the time of Mahabharata, and Arjun maybe 40 years later, or can you see that there may have been a difference? In other words, 20 years before Mahabharata, Arjun had very little of this, the 4 qualities that you need. Vivek, Vairagya, Mumukshutva, etc. So little that he was not even, no teaching was even offered to him. Yeah, it's called Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. Sadhana Chatushtaya. The 4 types of sadhana. I had to Google it because I could not believe. Then मुझको याद नहीं आ रहा था. ठीक है, so this is that 4th type of sadhana, Chatushtaya. Arjun had very little. So Bhagavan Krishna didn't even talk to him about all this stuff. He was just talking of other things. At Gita, Arjun had a Dharam Sankat experience. He suddenly realized that all the things he understood, all the things he thought were valuable, all the things he thought he could do, that he was capable of doing, he suddenly realized things are out of his control. And all these experiences culminated in some sort of a readiness to ask Krishna Bhagavan, I can't figure this out. There is something more, tell me what else is there, right? So that's the start of sadhana chatushtaya, so to say. There's some degree of readiness. But Krishna Bhagavan realized that he is not ready yet. So when Arjun kept asking him, मैं संन्यास में जाऊं क्या ना जाऊं, he kept saying, नहीं, no sannyas for you. You fight, right? तुम अपना जिंदगी में इसी जगह रह के काम करो जो तुमको करना है. So maybe, and it, during the course of that life, we know that Arjun never really became a jnani as such. He died and, went to heaven and all that. He wouldn't have gone to heaven and all if he was a jnani. But it just takes time. So the other thing about in chapter 2, the jnani is one who has these 4 things in abundance and knowledge on top of that. That's a jnani. So there's the markers of a jnani. Anyway, any other comments or questions? Atul, say something.
All good.
I know, because you are not paying. You're like in a different world right now, in some other place, in some other loka. You're creating another new loka in your imagination. You're not connecting.
Possibly.
Possibly, or probably.
No, it's all in a one this, no?
What do you mean? Explain.
Well, even the other loka is there is no other loka, as you have said. So I'm in the same loka as just a little a different branch of it, maybe.
Tell us more about your branch. The view from your branch. You can see a buffet line from your branch, that I know.
Yeah. No, there's nothing extraordinary about the other branch. So
But I think if you see from all the branches, you will reach one common focal point. Branches may be different, your angles may be different, but ultimately they all teach you the same things.
Like what?
Anything different from another branch, Atul?
No, what do they teach?
About
When you say they teach
Brahman
the same
or
thing.
Ishwar, that the originator is one. In all the religions, they just have that common thing that God is everywhere and God is with everyone and He is the creator. And that's the common cosmic energy everywhere.
Yeah, but I don't know if Vedanta is about that. Maybe that's a fundamental difference.
No, even Vedanta tells you this only about Ishwar and Brahman and Atma. So I think all the religions and all the branches, take Christianity, take Sikhism, take Buddhism, except Buddhism is a bit different, I think.
But I don't know whether, Atul, when you were saying you were on a different branch, you meant a different philosophy or theology.
No, what I meant was I was actually trying to grab onto one premise of Vedanta, which is that everything is one. So in other words, I was challenging your questioning that I could be on a different branch.
Yeah, but it's like you don't know, nah? Well, you never got the memo that everything is one.
I got that memo. So that's why at least
you got the memo only intellectually.
I may not have got the memo as in I may not have imbibed it, but
exactly,
I saved it so I can show it back to you.
Yes, exactly. That's all you've done. So I'm saying, what's the point? You don't believe the memo, so don't tell me about the memo.
but save करके तो रखा हुआ है ना?
Save करके रखा हुआ है. That is something.
Yeah.
वही काफी heavy.
Yeah. But again, I think the conversation that where I was challenging Sanjay was that at least my understanding is that Vedanta is not so prescriptive as some of the other religions about what did God do, where did he come from, what he didn't do, and what's our position vis-a-vis God. So that, at least that's my takeaway so far, that Vedanta is not as prescriptive कि वो एक है और तुम अलग हो.
Very interesting. Vedanta, जब मैं देखता हूँ ना, तो I feel like it's almost like a little pyramid, right? With a lot of prescriptive stuff at the lower levels of the pyramid, and as you go higher and higher, the prescription goes lower and lower. So depending upon your own need for prescription, you can get attached at any point in the pyramid.
That's always the case. But
so Vedanta has enough in it that also talks about all this prescriptive stuff too. But its core teaching, like the heart of it, you're right. It's not It's not prescriptive because it says whichever prescriptive branch, like Sanjay was saying, tum kahin se bhi, the pyramid is a huge one at the bottom, the base. You can come from here, you can come from there, come from wherever. Depending upon your proclivity, where you attach yourself, you can come from any side of the pyramid. Eventually, it's then going to take you up to the top. So
Yeah,
you
but
can be climbing from anywhere.
But at the essence,
At the essence, it's not prescriptive.
are there multiple gods,
No,
or
no.
is there one God? And then with
There is no
Vedanta
God.
would be there is only God.
No, there is only you.
Yeah.
You can call yourself God if you want. You can call
Yeah.
yourself whatever.
That's
There
the
is only
point. So, which is I think the distinction between let's say the monotheistic religions, which will say there's only one God. But that implicit in that is that there is something else, which is the rest of us.
Yes.
But the Vedantic view is that there is one God, and that's us.
That's you, not us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all there is you. You can, depending upon how you feel comfortable in the beginning, you can call it anything. You can call that God and say that you're that
is the
God
distinction I was trying to make between Vedanta and the rest of the
That's accurate. But I was just trying to say that both are true. You can, to say that is what Vedanta says is very true. But to say that Vedanta also talks about a God and the creator and all is also true. Because it does talk about it. It just talks about it at a lower level. It talks about it at the base of the pyramid and then it takes you there. It depends, it depends on what you're looking for. Anyway. Chalo, 10 baj gaye. Time to sleep. Sanjay, need nahi
I
aayi?
was just
Sorry.
नहीं, I am okay.
I was just wondering, तुमने क्या ये सारी संस्कृत पढ़ी या अलग से संस्कृत की classes ली है, क्या किया है? How do you?
I have been studying Sanskrit. You'll be surprised at how much I have studied Sanskrit.
Okay.
So ये जो श्लोक पढ़े हैं, ये तो मैंने संस्कृत पढ़े पहले. I just read them. देख स्वामी जी की किताब है on मुंडका उपनिषद. ये देखो, ये है ना. This is a book by Swami Dayananda, Mundaka Upanishad. It's in 2 volumes.
Okay.
This is volume 2. There's a volume 1 also. So it has, like in the Gita, it has every shlok. जैसे ये श्लोक है, इसमें लिखा हुआ है ना, ये श्लोक लिखा है in Sanskrit. Can you see? ये संस्कृत में लिखा है.
Yeah.
इसके नीचे there's a translation. English. And उसके बाद अगले पेज में there is all this explanation.
Yeah, that's okay.
Correct. So ये जो translation है, इसमें actually Swamiji takes each word and explains it, translates it in English. And then in the explanation, he actually takes the word and explains it what it really means. So for example, मैंने आपको कहा था ना, परीक्षाए लोकान कर्म चित्तान. So lokan actually means loka. It means जैसे भूलोक, जैसे पृथ्वी है या स्वर्गलोक. Right? So it's lok. Lokan is multiple loks in the second case as an object, as an accusative. ये होता है ना संस्कृत में, आपको याद है प्रथमा द्वितीया तृतीया. So the द्वितीया में lok is lokan in bahuvachan. Lokam, lokau, lokan, something like that. So that is what lokan means. But what he says is that in the case of the shlok, lokan actually means not the world, but it actually means experience. Because this word जो लोकान है, इसकी origin ही experience से है. The reason why bhulok or all these loks are called lok is because these are the fields of experience. This is where experiences happen. ये जो संस्कृत और वेदांत है ना, this is all about experience. So they say the world as the field where experience. You need experience. To get experience, you need a field from where to get experience. That field is this world. You do अच्छे कर्म, पुण्य करोगे, then you deserve better experiences. So you need a field which will give you better and pleasant experiences. That field is स्वर्गलोक. वहां पे आपको अच्छे experience मिल जाएंगे. Then आप बुरा काम करोगे, then you need a field where you need horrible experiences. वो स्वर्ग लोग नहीं है, उसके लिए पाताल में चले जाओगे तुम. So that is another field. So all the worlds are just fields of experience. Kshetra. So Lokan, he's trying to say, is actually means experience. What have you experienced? Then Karam Chittan, Karam just means जो आपने काम करा. Chittan is Chit. So Chittan means something that has been created. So then he will explain that that's what it means. So then he tells you why these words mean this. So now you know that, Parikshaya Lokan Karam Chittan means Lokan is the whole, that one word gives you the whole idea of experiences, good and bad, the whole set of experiences, right? Just one word. Karam Chittan gives you the idea of the whole set of creation. When we, as an egoistic being, we believe that हमने कुछ create करा, उससे हमको कुछ मिला. That whole set of creation, अच्छे काम, बुरे काम, ये काम, वो काम, all of that is in this word Karam Chittan. Parikshaya means, so yeah, this is what I learned from Sanskrit. जो end में ये add करो ना किसी चीज के, so that gives you the feeling of having done. It's a pratyaya, it's a suffix. So parikshaya means having examined, having done the pariksha. So now I know Parikshaya, Lokan, Karam Chittan. Somebody says these three things. What it might mean for you, those three things are going to be very different from what it means for me. For me, they encompass or they indicate a whole big universe of thoughts, of idea. Just these three words. That is the beauty of our literature. That's how our literature is unfolded. So to me, it has been unfolded. These words, meanings have been explained, and I have kind of spent time and they've been unfolded. So for me, these words mean something else. So you got to do this for fully understanding our Shastra, if you are interested. You don't have to.
No, that's okay. Now that brings another question to my mind. Like, this means that it's written in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
And you are reading it like it is there like this only, that you are interpreting it in one way, and there is another group who is interpreting the same text in another way, and the third one is interpreting it in a different way.
Brilliant.
So what to believe?
So let me just expand on what you're saying, because what you're hitting upon is a very interesting field. The same Mundaka Upanishad, right? The same Sanskrit, interpreted by Indian Gyanis, Indian scholars, who are masters of Sanskrit and masters of philosophy, can take these words and interpret them in slightly different ways. Luckily, it's not very different, but different enough, different ways. And they come up with different schools of thought. So, even within Vedanta, which is the interpretation of these things, you have Advait Vedanta, Dvait Vedanta, Vishisht Advait Vedanta. You have 6 different kinds of Vedantas. You go outside Vedanta, meaning go to Sankhya, who don't consider Vedanta as the source of knowledge, but they say we agree with them. They have a completely different thing. In fact, actually, Brahma Sutra, जो मैंने पढ़ी थी, उसमें there is the use of a word Sat in Chandogya Upanishad. Sat, Vedantists have assumed means Atma. People from Sankhya have assumed that Sat means Prakriti.
Existence, Prakriti.
Prakriti, the thing that creates, right? So they've taken, and then they've given a lot of arguments for each. So one of the things that Brahma Sutra itself tells you, and any good guru will tell you, any good teacher will tell you, is that there is no alternative to your own dimag. There is no alternative. If you think that just by reading this stuff, and by listening to the interpretation of others and having blind faith, you will get any sort of conviction, you're completely mistaken. As far as I'm concerned, I can tell you my own self. The conviction in Vedanta came much before I started studying any of these Mundaka Upanishads. Much before. To me, it came 5 years before when I first heard about it. And I did not even study anything. I was only thinking. I just spent my time thinking about what it's saying. Can it be true? Does it make sense? Are there other ways? And what I find is much of what I did of my own thinking is reflected in these books. Then I realized I'm not the only one who did this thinking. A lot of people have done this thinking. मैं सोच रहा था मैं कोई बड़ी खास तोप चीज हूं कि मैंने ये nothing. And the reason now I read this is not because I'm trying to learn something new from the books. I'm just trying to, I just find it very interesting to see the finer, to see how they explain the same thing that I understand. And sometimes even that little sort of variation in the point of view can give you some interesting insight. It's just something that I like to do. So I'm doing it, but it's not necessary at all. Not at all. So you're absolutely right, Mukta. You will get completely confused if you delve into the literature of our Shastra without applying your brain. Because at the end of the day, like even our Swamiji says, at the end of the day, you have to make a choice on what is right and what is wrong. Because our literature, our philosophies are full of different thoughts. और राजेश भी यही कहता है ना, कहता है किसको बिलीव करूं, इसको बिलीव करूं, ये द्वैत वेदांत, why not द्वैत वेदांत, why not this, why not Sankhya, right? They all seem pretty convincing on the surface, but not to me. To me, in my mind, I can see them placed in different places. I can see in that pyramid that Sankhya is somewhere in the middle. Advait Vedanta is somewhere at the bottom of the pyramid. And, Nyaya is somewhere like in a completely different place altogether because it's only talking about some techniques. Yoga is also, somewhere in the middle of the pyramid. Sankhya and yoga are the same. I can see that there, at the end of the day, nobody addresses some of the questions that Advait Vedanta addresses. And it's not that Advait Vedanta has told me those are answers that I came to through my own thinking. And I thought they may be right. And Advait Vedanta has further corroborated them and have further cemented them. And not only that, they made them better. They've given me some insights or thoughts that I couldn't have come to on my own. And they've given me a way forward. So that is only possible if you do what is called mananam. See, ये जो था ना, आपने पढ़ा होगा, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasnam. All this reading books, this is all Shravanam. Very important. You got to do it. Understand? But Mananam is extremely important. Mananam only you can do. Mananam means think about all these things and see whether they're making sense or not. And Nididhyasnam is actually a third step, which is what Sanjay was saying. Apply them to your life. See, is this making sense in my life? Because if it is not making sense in your experience, it's all in the book, and jo tumhari zindagi mein hai, usme there is no connection between your life and what you're reading, you are not going to get any conviction. No way. You'll become a split personality. For a few hours, you will be having one lifestyle, one reality. Then you go out in the world, you'll have a different reality. You will confuse yourself and become miserable. You might even become psychotic. Something like that. I don't know what the term is. Pagal ho jayega aadmi. So to bring it all together and make sure that you're one, there is only one of you who has only one set of beliefs, not multiple beliefs depending upon where you are stationed in life, is Nididhyasana. So you go to, and then, Mananam and Nididhyasana aap hi nahi karni hai. Koi aur nahi karne laga aapke liye. Shravanam, yes, wo bhi sunna aapne hai, but there is a lot of text, a lot of things they'll tell you, but that's only one small little portion. And you don't have to, they say, you don't learn all these Upanishads, just read the Gita, that's enough. Or any one Upanishad or any one Prakarna Grantha is enough. All the thoughts are right there. वो तो आपका शौक है अगर आपको और पढ़ना है. Make sense?
Yeah. अभी बात करते करते, although I've heard this statement, but just your opinion, whatever you might have read or heard from your, do we have free will?
Depends on who you think we is. When you say, do I have free will? Are you saying mukta?
Okay,
Huh?
okay.
So yes, depending upon where you position yourself and how you define free
Okay.
will, you can answer the question for yourself. As an individual, you have both free will and a destiny. And you have your own efforts and you need your efforts to grow. गीता कहती है ना, कर्म योग करो. अगर आपके पास फ्री विल नहीं होगी तो आप कर्म योग कैसे करोगे?
वही दो चीज तो रिलेटेड है ना, कि
हाँ,
कर्म
बिल्कुल
योग में फ्री विल वाली बात आती है,
बिल्कुल.
और वैसे सब कर्म योग है तो इट इज लाइक
Yeah,
a
there's no free will.
destiny and it's a
So
thing on
आप
rotation.
समझो, you don't try to confuse yourself. Just try to be honest and say, what is my belief today? I would venture to say that your belief today is that you're a mukta, a separate individual who is different from Sanjay and from me and Atul. And what you do matters. The choices you make matter. You make a right choice, you'll get the right result. That is what you believe. But you have a doubt. मन में एक खनका है कि maybe there is something more. Maybe this is not all there is. And that is why you're trying to understand more. You're trying to understand what's behind this. But at this point in time, you can't say that I have surrendered to the world and my choices don't matter, that I'm God. You can't really say that on your day-to-day Vyavaharika basis. So go with that. Yes, you have free will. The choices you make matter. You know what choices you need to make and why. You know the consequence of most choices, and you know also that God's grace is very important, luck is very important. सब कुछ आपके हाथ में नहीं है. आप अपनी तरफ से बेस्ट काम करो. Go with it. Right?
Right.
It's impossible for you or for me at this moment to say there is no free will. And though फिर, then I will not be, what's the point? मैं अपना plan कर रहा हूँ, अगले हफ्ते मैंने session 2 करना है. I'm already thinking what are the questions to ask you for chapter 2 sessions from now. तो वो free will है, तभी तो मैं सारा आगे सोच रहा हूँ. I could be thinking of something else right now.
फिर ये वो भी तो हो सकता है कि ये like that was the karmic cycle
That was the concept,
between
yeah.
all the 4 of us.
Yeah, बिल्कुल हो सकता है भी सही.
Atul is thinking.
Yeah, there's no end to this.
Yeah.
See, this is, by the way, this is a clear indication of why the world that we conceive of as we being an individual with free will and we being an individual, you being separate, or ये सब कर रहे हैं, this world cannot be the ultimate. Because you run into if you really think deeply, you'll run into problems in this world. You will not be able to find the ultimate answers. It's just and after some time you'll say forget it.
Yeah.
Right? It's that's the thing. चलो चल यार, बहुत हो गया. संजय, तेरी आंख में नींद झपक रही है. Atul was
नहीं,
suddenly woken up. He was like he was almost half asleep half an hour ago. Now suddenly his eyes are shining. कुछ कहना है तो कह दे. If you have
Sanjay,
something to say.
Hmm?
If you since you've suddenly woken up, if you have something to say, you can say.
Are you talking about Sanjay or me?
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about Atul. You. Sanjay तो सोने लगा है.
नहीं, मतलब see, like I've said before, I'm auditing this course.
Acha.
So I feel that I'm sitting at the back of the class. I'm not paying my full tuition, so I feel somewhat restrained, self-restrained in diving deep. मैं तो मतलब क्या कहते हैं वो mokshu, to use your word mokshu, in the sense कि जो
Mukshu.
मिल गया वो ठीक है.
Mukshu.
Any crumbs that come my way is satisfactory. Not going to challenge कि क्यों ये वो क्यों, you know.
No, the challenge करो तो अच्छी बात है. You know, it might help all of us. Maybe that's a little. You may not pay the whole tuition, but that could be the.
ऑडिटर्स तो चैलेंज ही करते रहते हैं.
Oh, that's
मैंने
a
तो
good
यही
point.
देखा.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
वो मन
But
में challenge
Atul,
करता
एक
जा रहा है,
बात
बता
है
नहीं रहा
कि
हमको. In his mind, he is challenging everything.
if we look backwards and see Atul's interest in Vedanta and his conviction over the time has grown.
I
What
don't
do
know
you
whether
say,
he will
Atul?
admit it though.
That's what I'm asking him. No? My observation is that
That it has grown.
Say that again. What has grown?
your interest in Vedanta and conviction in Vedanta has grown in the last few months. Even your interest.
Interest, yes. One can possibly say that, but I'm not sure about the conviction part.
Okay. But my
Agar
feeling
Atul-
is your
if Atul
conviction
admits na that he
is
is
growing.
convinced.
It's on the positive way.
Yeah, but अगर Atul admit करेगा ना कि convinced हो गया है, then it's a step back for him. Because then suddenly he has closed other windows. For him to say I'm committed to Vedanta, he has to close all these other windows. Then उसको लगेगा कि मेरी knowledge और कम हो जाएगी.
You
Then I
need
have
not
to-
close the
No,
windows,
that,
but you can have.
no, Dheeraj is right. Then basically I have to say कि भाई, I better get out of my buffet line and sit down and eat.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
But
making
I
a
don't
commitment.
want to lose my spot in the buffet line.
Anyway, I don't want to say anything, but there is a parallel to this commitment thing. If you see any romantic Hindi movie or English movie, उसमें यही होता है. Commitment. So, एक जगह तो तूने commit कर लिया, दूसरी जगह भी कर ले अब. In one part of your facet of your life, you made the commitment. Chalo, before we say anything more, I'm going to call it a day.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye.